What are your thoughts on PewDiePie? Do you have any kind of like reservations about supporting him or anything?
So he's clearly fucked up a few times. I've been making content for 12 years. I've never said the N-word, and I don't plan to start. So that's a pretty stupid mistake, Felix, and I think he knows it. And I think the whole Fiverr thing, I think that was the dumbest. I always tell all my comedian friends, and I know a lot of comedian friends. I was hanging out with Nimmer just on Monday while I was here, and all of my comedian friends, the joke has to be worth it, right? Like Louis C.K. did the Parkland shooting joke, and that joke wasn't worth it. Right. Yeah. You gotta have a point to your jokes, right? I don't see the joke for the point of the Fiverr joke, right? I don't think that joke was worth it.
In retrospect, given the amount of scrutiny that he has taken since then, that really seems like yesteryear that he felt comfortable enough making a joke like that.
Obviously, he's definitely changed for the better. That's something I always advocate for. I think somebody like Felix, we don't have to have a Felix is over party. We don't have to have a PewDiePie is over. We don't have to destroy the guy. Let him learn from his mistakes and serve as an example of somebody who's gotten better and learn from those mistakes, because it incentivizes other people to learn from their mistakes. And I do not doubt for a second. You saw this PewDiePie apology video for the Christland shooter,
or just getting rid of the meme, the subscribe to PewDiePie meme, yeah.
And like that's clearly a humbled guy. That's clearly a guy who feels awful, feels terrible. And I know for a fact, because I barely know Felix at all, but the fact that the Christchurch shooter mentioned his name ruined him for days, if not weeks. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the pain. And I got a lot of flack for saying that on Twitter. I'm like, I tweeted about the shooting and like how awful it was, and then I saw a tweet from Felix and I responded. He's like, I'm disgusted that this man uttered my name and I can't believe this shit. As I responded, I'm like, I can't imagine the amount of pain you're in, Felix. We know that we love you, you know? And the internet lost their minds. Like, how dare you support that Nazi? How dare you? Oh, you're worried about the pain he's in. What about the people? I've addressed the people in New Zealand. Of course I feel bad about the people in New Zealand. Of course I feel bad about the people who lost their lives. I'm not a fucking monster. But can I also feel bad for a fellow YouTuber who's got wrapped up in this unwittingly, unknowingly? Like,
and by someone who clearly had sinister intentions, because the person who said subscribe to PewDiePie or whatever, it would be one thing if we were talking about some dumbass kid who really just thought it was funny to say subscribe to PewDiePie before he shot a bunch of people. If you read that manifesto, if you actually look at all the things that he was saying, it's clear that he was trying to fuck over Candace Owens, that he was trying to fuck over PewDiePie, that he wanted to create this sort of reaction, and it's insane to see so many people buying into it.
It's so fascinating because he clearly, from what little of the manifesto I've read, he clearly wanted to further the divide. That's I think it's his words. I want to further the divide.
Amazingly successful too.
And people fell unwittingly or even willingly into it, right? Because there's a lot of people out there, and I know I'm gonna get bullied for what I'm about to say, because when you talk about bullies, you get bullied. And I don't care anymore. I got new teeth. No,
new teeth, new man.
But seriously, there are people out there who willingly charged into that and bullied and spread open the divide because they like to be the bad guy. They like to be the bully. They convince themselves, I'm the good guy. I'm the good guy, right? I'm fighting those leftist idiots because they're leftist idiots. I'm fighting those right idiots because they're idiots, right? And all techniques are fair. All techniques are fine as long as my side wins, right? And they saw the Christchurch shooter say that shit, and they don't care. They don't care. They genuinely don't care, because it's another excuse to be a vitriolic piece of shit, and they love it. And they love it. They love
There's so many
garbage.
like bad actors in our current political landscape who that is what they get off on, is being able to misrepresent what people's words are, and that's the biggest thing that I notice, and that is the biggest determining factor when it comes to who I'm willing to listen to. Like, I listen to a lot of Sam Harris, as long as I'm going to expose who I fuck with in terms of podcasts and stuff like that. I'm a huge Sam Harris fan, and the reason why I fuck with Sam Harris and I feel so comfortable being one of his, mega fans is because I feel like he confronts criticism openly and honestly, and he's not trying to put words into the mouths of people who are his opponents and trying to present unfair opinions, but people are constantly doing that to him. They're constantly trying to present him as if he's this Islamophobic monster and like completely trying to take everything that he says out of context, and that is, I do not respect that when it comes to politics. I don't respect anybody who their jig is that they go around and they try to put words in people's mouths that they didn't actually say, and if that is how you are getting by in this world, is you're racket is that you just love to paint people as saying things that they never really said, or to take things out of context. I'm not a big Ilhan Omar, whatever the fuck her name is. I'm not a big fan of her, but the way that Trump and them have painted her as being this like extreme like terrorist sympathizer, it's sickening. She didn't say the shit that they're representing her as saying, and it is horrific. And anybody who behaves in that way should be taken outside of the serious political discussion.
And that's so common in the YouTube community because I follow a lot of YouTubers who are also getting hate, and some of the same people that hate me hate other people. Like, I don't want to drop names because I don't want to draw any negative attention to people, but there are definitely creators out there who I love, who I know are genuinely good people, but Reddit and 4chan, they think they're monsters, right? And I get lumped into that too. There's plenty of people out there who, for example, I just bought a Magic the Gathering store. I just told you about that, right? And so on stream one night, I was talking about how Magic cards are tax write-off for me, right? Of course they're tax write-off. I've been building a Magic collection to sell at a Magic store. Idiots, right? And somebody in chat's like, hey, so if I sell a Magic card, I have to report that to the income? And I'm like, no. If there's no paper trail, you don't have to report the income. Don't worry about it, right? And so I go back to explaining that I have Magic cards for tax write-off. And so that goes viral as Boogie2988 admits to tax fraud. Dude, I make so much money, and I wrote off like $1,000 for the Magic cards last year. What are you talking about? Okay, I paid more in the taxes than most people earn in 3 years. You know, no offense, I'm not that rich, but I do okay. And I proudly pay my taxes because I know it goes to defend this country. I know it goes to Social Security. I know it goes to welfare. I know it goes to people who are struggling, Medicare, Medicaid. I want to put that money into those boxes because I was on disability once. I needed Medicare, I needed Medicaid, and it helped me build my business. So when I cut my check, I ain't cheating. I'm glad to cut a nice big check because I'm fortunate, and it's my job to cut that check. I ain't Amazon, I ain't Activision, I ain't trying to pay zero. I'm trying to pay my fair share.
I'm trying to pay as little as possible, but I'm also willing to pay my fair share. I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, the amount of money that I paid in taxes this year, I saw that amount leaving my bank account, and I was like, it was a weird, bittersweet thing. Like, I'm so happy that I've gotten to the point where I make this amount of money that this is what the government thinks that they deserve out of what I earn.
Right, exactly, right.
You know, it's a bittersweet thing. Like, I'm glad I got here, and I'm also kind of horrified that this is
You and I are probably
normal.
you and I are probably in that Trump bracket, the one where he made it worse for everybody. Like if you're near the top, you got breaks, and then those breaks are getting paid for the upper middle class and the lower upper class, right? And we're probably both right in that area and doing pretty good for ourselves, you know.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good, but not outlandishly good. Not the 100 millions that would make it really beneficial.
Right. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to have like millions of dollars to my name. That's never going to happen. That dream is dead after I got divorced.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to give her a percentage? You have child support?
She got half. No child support. Like that. My wife was actually pretty generous when we got divorced. She wanted what she was entitled to, and she was entitled to half in Arkansas, but she didn't really want much more, and she was like cool about it, honestly. You know, so she could definitely try to make a bid for the business and say, I helped build that business. I was in every Francis video. She could have easily tried to do that, but she had no interest. She just wanted to leave me happy, but she wanted to make sure that the rest of her life was going to be taken care of too. You know? Right. And I wanted the same thing, so it wasn't a big deal. It's still a big financial hit, right? Right. You know, to go from X numbers to half that, you know.
That, I mean, that's all right there. Sounds like the kind of thing that could drive a man insane.
Right, but that is also a woman who carried me through my gastric bypass surgery, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be alive right now. So it was money well earned.
So you don't feel any kind of resentment towards her?
Yeah, to some extent, right? Like I when I got married, I said till death do us part, and I meant it. And, you know, unfortunately she didn't, and that's okay. Right. You know, and honestly, I'm glad we got divorced now that we are. So there's some resentment, and I wish that we could have made it work, and I really wanted to make it work. But then there's the realization that we couldn't have made it work. It just wasn't working. We were not meant to be. Right. We were meant, I don't really believe in God. I don't really believe in fate, but I think we were meant to be together for exactly as long as we were together. And she helped me, and I helped her, and we got what we got, and we needed what we needed, and now we are where we are, and it's how it's supposed to be. Right. You know?
What is it about you that makes so many people want to troll you and talk shit about you and fuck with you? From my years of following you, I've never really been able to understand what it is that would make people want to, you know, try to shit on you. You just have always seemed like a pretty nice guy, and a guy who's very aware of his shortcomings.
There's three things, I think. The first of which is, like, someone once called me the Mr. Rogers of YouTube, and I ain't that. right?
Right.
Like I was in the adult industry for a while. I mean, I've shot content before, like not me naked or anything like that, but I shot softcore stuff, right? I did web design for like Raven Riley and a bunch of people in the 90s, right? Cyberotica and those sites. So I'm definitely not a clean person or anything like it. I try to be nice, but I'm not all that nice all the time either. And people who've seen my YouTube videos, have seen my streams, know that I've got an edge on me as well, right? I am a hurt, broken person. I have PTSD. Sure, I get angry sometimes. Sure, I say outlandish shit sometimes. So a lot of people just want to break down that Mr. Rogers, what they consider a facade. They think I'm not genuinely a nice person. And I'm not, to some extent. I am a broken person trying really hard to be nice. That's more what I'm like. I try consciously all the time to do what I think is the right thing and to do the nice thing and to be a kind and good person. And I fail all the time because I suck. But I think that's one of the biggest things. I think the second thing is people look at me and they see a morbidly obese person and they see that I got the video games I want to play and I got the house I want to live in and I got the girl that I want to date and I got the friends and I got the dog and I got the career, and they want that and they don't have it. And if they think very little of me and they think I'm beneath them and they don't have it, I don't deserve it, right? That's a big thing. It's not really jealousy as much as it is, well, maybe it is jealousy. I don't know. But that seems to be another really big part of it.
And it's crazy how we've come so far as a society, but it still feels like everybody hates fucking people based on physical stuff. Like the hatred for fat people is still strong.
Right.
And people that still, I mean, I know this is a ridiculous example, but I've been watching a show of Game of Thrones. I'm just thinking about the way people treat the dwarf.
Right, Tyrion Lannister. And
it I mean, certainly would play out the exact same way. Like if you knew someone was a dwarf and was your friend and he's around a lot, then you know people are going to be talking shit about it, or like,
of course,
you know, like maybe in our world today, like the kind of people I know, they would probably be able to be nice about it and not be in their face about it. But people are still so constantly hung up on physical stuff.
You remember what Tyrion says in the first episode, right? He says, "Never be ashamed of who you are. Wear it like armor, and no one will be able to use it against you."
Oh, that's a good
And
one.
I try to remember that all the time. Like I try to, and I talk about this with Ethan today too. Is talking about being your authentic self, to try to be the most authentic version of myself as I can. And that's tough sometimes as a YouTuber, right? Because you don't want to upset anybody. You want anybody to give you their gotcha moment, right? But I try to be unrelentingly myself. But that's a difficult thing to do because I'm very multi-sided, because I'm broken, because I'm hurt, because I'm depressed, because I'm sad, because I have all these mental health issues, right? I post-traumatic stress disorder. I dissociate. It's a struggle, right? And the person that I am when I'm dissociated is very different from the person I am when I'm conscious. And so when I am consciously acting, consciously thinking, I'm always actively trying to be a good person, right? I don't know. I don't know. Should I just be a piece of shit 24 hours a day? That seems to be what Reddit would want of me.
Right. I mean, it's weird. I feel like I maybe avoid a lot of shit because people can tell that I have pretty thick skin and that I'm not going to be terribly affected.
That was the third reason, right? The problem is I've always been so open about my anxiety, so open about my depression. They know I'm a target, right? And I will respond on Twitter. I will respond on Reddit. When that tax evasion thing came out, another example. Here's this story I love to tell. The very first girl I ever dated, I met her at the age of 15. She was 14. I lost my virginity to her when I was like 16. She was 15. And we were best friends until she died 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And when we were growing up, we both had an edgy sense of humor because we both grew up in abusive homes. And so we loved to make jokes about death. We'd make jokes about all the dark shit. And one of her favorite catchphrases was, "I hope you get cancer. I hope you get cancer too. I can't wait till you die of cancer." And the reason she said that was because she used to work hospice. As a teenager, she would sit with dying people and get paid like $5 an hour to wait and see if they died. And if they didn't, change the bedpans and help that shit. So that was one of her ways of trying to make ends meet. And she didn't have a choice in that job. Her foster mother made her do that job. You need to be bringing money in. You're 16. Anyway. So in college, she would make that joke. And one day she said, "I hope you get double cancer." Well, what is double cancer? Like, that's funny, right? You've got a dark sense of humor. That's hilarious. What is double cancer? Because I hope you get a cancer so bad it gives you a second type of cancer. I hope you get like ass cancer and dick cancer or whatever. And so that was her catchphrase for years. Like, I hope you get a double cancer. I hope you get double cancer. So she got cancer. She got breast cancer because she was a very well-endowed woman, and it went on for a while. She ended up getting a mastectomy, and she fought it for like 3 years. And remember, this is my best friend. And we talked on the phone every week, sometimes every day. And we'd known each other since we were 3 years old, and we dated from 15 to 22, and was probably one of the loves of my life. I loved her the way I loved my ex-wife. You know? And so she's dying and it's miserable. And I go to visit her a couple of times and it's heartbreaking, but she's got a dark sense of humor and I got a dark sense of humor. So we would tell jokes all the time, the worst jokes. And the final conversation I get to have with her is 3 days before she passed. And I'm at a party at my house and I sneak off to the bathroom and she calls and she's like, hey, am I dying alone here? I haven't heard from you in like 5 days. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just work and stuff. And she's like, I think this is gonna be it. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I'm dying. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. And I said, you know, did I ever tell you I'm sorry that we didn't make it work? And I'm sorry for all the shit we did to each other. And she said, yeah. She said, ever tell you I was sorry? And she's like, yeah. And so we made our apologies and we made our ends meet. And I told her, I said, I'll always love you, always have, you know? And she said, I love you too. And she goes, can you fucking believe I got double cancer? Because she got breast cancer and it gave her lung cancer.
Wow.
The treatment for the breast cancer gave her lung cancer. She literally died of the thing that she made fun of. And I said, yeah, I always told you. I laughed so fucking hard because it broke the tension, it broke the moment. And I laughed so hard and she was laughing. And I'm like, I told you when we were kids, you were gonna get cancer because you said that shit all the time. She goes, well, you were right. Karma's a bitch, you know? And that was the last conversation we ever had. And then 3 nights later, I was in Hot Springs with my wife. And I get a phone call from her husband and he's like, she passed tonight. And I sent her like a gift package and it had one of these little koosh balls in it. If you remember those little rubber band balls, and we would shoplift those when we were in high school together because we had both broke and we had no money and it was a way for us to like have fun things. And so she passed holding that koosh ball. And I told this exact story. And when I got to the dark part, I laughed. I was talking to Andy Melanakis. I was talking to Greek God on a podcast. When I told the double cancer joke, I laughed. And the internet's like, look at this piece of shit dying at his ex-girlfriend's life, right? So on Reddit, when I got accused of tax evasion, that story came up and I went in to explain it to him. And like, you're a fucking liar. You're making shit up. Like, they so desperately want you to be a liar. They desperately want you to be a monster. They desperately want you. But it was a huge mistake to even try to, once again, reason with an unreasonable person. Yeah. Why do I have to prove that to him? I was Danny's friend for 30 some years. We were close to, I know the truth. I don't give a shit what he thinks. And that's how you seem to live your life. And that's how I need to live mine.